Back to our top story here on RT International. And the UN Security Council is preparing to vote on a resolution to establish a tribunal on the downing of flight MH17 in East Ukraine last July. Russia has dubbed the proposal counterproductive and is expected to veto the resolution. Well, let's now speak to Alexander Pankin, who's the head of the International Organizations Department at Russia's Foreign Ministry, and joins us live now here on RT International. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us on this busy evening. The first thing I have to ask you is, why is Russia opposed to such a tribunal then?
Well, let me remind you one thing. From the very beginning, from the very first days after this tragedy, which happened over a year ago, Russia has been trying to contribute to investigation in order to bring to justice those perpetrators and criminals who committed this act. And the stage has been set, as I said, the very next day when the Security Council discussed this incident of the downing of MH17 plane. And from that very day, we heard accusations, blunt accusations, that Russia was assisting those guys who have shot down the plane. And many officials, high-level officials, expressed the same view, that Russia was assisting and Russia was part of that tragedy. Of course, we could not but react to that and suggested all our cooperation in order to bring the truth. And that's why Security Council has decided to adopt the resolution 2166, which called for impartial and independent international investigation. And what we saw after that was very peculiar manner in which the whole investigation process was conducted on. We saw that the coalition of the willing, the group of limited group of countries, have taken responsibility for this investigation, and this group of countries were driven also by all sorts of accusations in the media, in the cyberspace, and Russia became very concerned about the way the investigation was going on. Again, to remind you that we advocated the high profile for the Security Council in this event and in this investigation. Our permanent representative made several proposals how Security Council could be involved together with the ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization. And what we saw after that was that just a few countries who decided that they could conduct criminal investigation, and the Dutch Safety Board, which, with all my respect, the body which unfortunately had no prior experience with dealing with such incidents, I mean the aircraft crashes, has taken the lead in technical investigation. And you remember that many ambassadors who are participating in the Security Council meeting from the very beginning were assuredly accusing Russia of being accomplice to this crime in a very blunt manner, without any suspicions or any doubts, and Russia became a suspect. We did not like this way of dealing with the things. We suggested that Security Council and the Secretary General be involved deeply in this. Secretary General of the United Nations, however, never reported to the Council anything. Instead, on a couple of occasions, his deputy for political affairs made some remarks, especially expressing confidence in the independence of the investigation. I don't know on what grounds this confidence was based, because, as our Dutch colleagues and others mentioned, no one had access to the Dutch Safety Board investigation. And it looks like Russia was also sided. We also remember that when we suggested securing the crash site, the perimeter, in order to ensure the security of the experts who were to collect the remnants of the MH17. This was not done. We know that the remnants and pieces of the aircraft were collected in a very slow manner. You know, they came in July and then they left until late November. There was standstill, and after that there was a second flow of experts to the crash site, and but still many remnants of the aircraft are still on the ground of the crash site till today. So instead of considering options or sharing these options with the Security Council, initiators of the draft resolution, which has to be voted today, they decided to go straight to bypass any consultations. They prepared draft resolution where the creation of international tribunal by the UN Security Council was considered to be the best and the only option, the most efficient and the most reliable. I don't know on which grounds they made this decision, but we believe that there is a lot of haste in what they are doing now.
Well,
and I could also,
those calling for this tribunal say it's the best way to bring those responsible to justice. Do you disagree with that premise?
I do disagree with that, because why is it the best way? Efficiency, speed, or what? Well, let me remind you that there were some cases of tribunals created by the UN Security Council. The most well-known are about the ICTY, the International Criminal Tribunal against former Yugoslavia, and also on Rwanda, but it took them 20 years to conduct the investigations, and they spent billions of dollars, and certain people were sitting in jail waiting for decisions for many years. Or if you take the International Tribunal on Lebanon, it was created in 2007, a couple of years after the assassination of Prime Minister Hariri, and only in 2014 the International Tribunal for Lebanon could produce the papers which could identify the suspects who committed this crime 10 years after the crime. So I would really argue that that's the best, speediest and most efficient way to treat the cases like this. That's one thing. Another thing is that, of course, the way the International Tribunal for MH17 is treated now is that it's based, they want to base it on Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which means referring to the threat to international peace and security. But let me ask you one question. What is the threat to international peace and security in downing of this aircraft? It was a criminal act, definitely. It was a tragedy, and but it did not bring any implications to international peace and security. And treating the case this way is really politicizing the whole case. That's also the second argument why we don't take the International Tribunal as the best way of treating this unfortunate incident.
Well, those calling for this tribunal, you talk about politicizing events. They say that a tribunal should be set up before the results of the official investigation are announced in October to avoid politicizing the process. What do you make of that as a proposal?
But you know, the whole case was politicized from the very beginning. As I told you, the ambassadors at the Security Council, the ambassadors of certain countries, and politicians from certain countries, they pointed fingers at Russia. They were accusing Russia from the very beginning. This was politicization from the very start. And I doubt that international tribunal is the most objective way of dealing with justice. There are many experts who believe that international tribunals are the least efficient way of dealing with things. And we saw this stage having been set up, and now against that stage the whole wave of accusations is following, and they want Russia to be framed. Let me put it this way, to be framed. I would have a counter question for you. Why Russia is so concerned, you may ask. There were no Russian citizens on board of that plane. It did not happen over Russia. It was not the Russian-made or the plane did not belong to Russia. Of course not. We could have sat silent, but the whole stage was set up against Russia from the very start. That's why we're concerned and we're standing for justice. And again, I want to turn you back to the Security Council. If it was an international investigation launched by Security Council should have played and still can play a more active role. And Secretary General has to be involved. We suggested that Secretary General nominate his special representative for this case, that Secretary General report to the Security Council, that Security Council consult on the ways to go ahead. Nothing happened. We just saw a group of countries, 5 countries, from this joint investigation team, self-appointed. We saw Ukraine has delegated its authority over investigation to another country, to Netherlands, which is quite a surprising step. And I could also remind you that out of 5 countries, Malaysia, and it was a Malaysian airplane, was included in the team only 6 months after the investigation started. It happened in December 2014. And Russia also applied recently for inclusion in this team, but were rejected without any reasonable explanation for the motives of this rejection. So we have really many doubts about the whole investigation. It's really, as many officials, Russian officials said, it's not only premature, but it's also counterproductive to push with the idea before the end of the investigation. This is politicizing the issue.
What about the investigation and the joint investigative team and the way it's conducting the official probe?
Well, you know, as I said, Russia wanted to be on this team. Russia was invited, Russian experts were invited, but it was very nominal invitation. You know, when they came to this team, they were not allowed to go to the crash site. They were not allowed to see any substantive documents related to investigation. They were not even asked to provide a lot of information which we had. And we also have questions about the data which was supplied to this joint investigation team, JIT. We know that there should have been many technical documents and data provided to this team which were never shared with anyone, including us. And we don't think this is a transparent way or fair way of doing things.
We've already touched on this. You've mentioned it. Under international law, of course, Ukraine did have the right to hand over the investigation to a different country. They chose the Netherlands. You said you were surprised by that. Are you concerned by the fact that the Netherlands are leading this investigation? And if so, why?
I wouldn't say we're concerned with the Netherlands leading this investigation, but we have questions about the ability or expertise which the joint investigation, about the ability of the Dutch Safety Board to conduct this investigation. They had never any major experience with similar cases. But what we say is that why the Security Council was not involved, why the members of the Security Council were not involved in terms of expertise, in terms of contributions, in terms of helping the other experts with security, with the physical security of these experts, with the collecting evidences and so on. That's very, very surprising way of doing things. We heard that Dutch Safety Board is very independent. At the same time, there were leakages. And at the same time, there were expressions of confidence in its impartiality. Based on what? We never heard any answers to those questions.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for joining us here on RT International. It's much appreciated on a busy evening. That's Alexander Pankin, head of the International Organizations Department of Russia's Foreign Ministry. Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. You are